love riding my bike. I love running. I don't care what they think about it. I love it.
At that point, when I knew I was going to win, chills just went up and down my entire body.
I don't believe there are any good or bad foods. Food is food.
I still feel so passionate about getting that record that I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
As an athlete, I was like, what's my story, or what's your story? What can you learn from it? And what can you teach people?
Welcome to the IronWomen podcast. I'm Alyssa Godesky here with my co-host, Haley Chura. Haley, it looks like you had a big weekend jet setting over to, is it a jet set when you go from Montana to Arizona? But spent a couple days in Tempe, Arizona, spectating and coaching at IRONMAN Arizona. Looks like it was like pretty nice weather, good vibes from what I could tell that you posted. How was the experience? Was it a successful day for your athlete racing?
Yes, Alyssa, I did jet set my way from Montana to Arizona. That was about as much jet setting as I have in me right now, but given my current injury status, but it was really fun to leave the snow here in Bozeman and get to Tempe. I actually raced Ironman Arizona 12 years ago as my first pro race. So it is a course that holds a lot of sentimental value in my heart. And it was fun to be back and just be back in the triathlon community. I think I have missed that. And I think it was really good for me to enjoy some of that Tempe weather and get to see so many people, both racing and spectating. I think I had a really, really fun time getting to just hang out and meet a lot of people. And I wasn't quite as mobile as I maybe would have been otherwise. I did resist running around and cheering too much, but Ironman Arizona is an excellent spectator course because it is a, swim that is right there in Tempe. And then you do a 3-lap bike so you can stand in one spot and see people going and coming and really catch all the action, and then a 3-loop run. So you can kind of, again, stand in one spot and see a lot of action. Plus it's such an urban course that you can go off and get like breakfast and coffee or, lunch or a mid-race adult beverage if you aren't racing, and kind of just enjoy that. Keep yourself well-fueled, charge up the phone, make sure the tracker's on there. So if you time it right, you can, it's a very good spectator course.
Yes. And so another big race in addition to Ironman Arizona was T100 in Dubai that was happening. So I want to talk, I guess, about your travel schedule. Like, how did you balance those two things? And then we can talk about the races too.
Right. Because the T100 race was actually finishing before I was like on the airplane. So this was the other thing. I went to Arizona because I had 2 friends here from Bozeman who had a spare room in their Airbnb. And so I was going to cheer for them. And then then I had one athlete racing, Christina, who I mentioned last week on the show, had also broken her hand this past summer. And so it was kind of cool for me to get to see her come back in person. And so I was able to find a really inexpensive flight, but the reason it was so inexpensive is they were all 6 a.m. flights. And so, but that was actually great, even though the 3-handle wake up wasn't super great. But then I actually got to wake up and watch T100 basically while I was getting ready and doing my last minute packing. And then I got to we were a little delayed because we were de-icing the plane here in Bozeman. So I actually had the live stream on while I'm sitting on the plane, and I got to watch Taylor Niv finish and claim that victory, which was so cool because it was just so fun. And I will admit, I was a little sad. I think that was like watching the race, even though it looked so miserable and so hot. I was a little sad to miss out. That was honestly the first time I really felt hurt. And I mean, I felt hurt, I felt pain, but I felt like I was missing an opportunity. And so it was a little bit emotional. So I think it was actually really good for me to kind of feel those feelings and then land in Tempe and get that sunshine, get into that race atmosphere just for my mental health. So it kind of worked out well.
I also want to mention that second place was Julie Darren at T100. Third place was Ashley Gentle. And Haley, those were my picks, right? I nailed it, I feel like, right?
I think you picked Julie first. You were going against the grain. You didn't pick Taylor for the win.
But I got the right 3. I still, whatever. I think I still picked the pretty good picks. I was proud
Well
of
done.
myself.
Well done. We'll give you
But
that award.
I would like to shout out hardly a dark mare in that whole field, but I do think Flora Duffy, I would say had one of the performances of the day. I think I don't know, I think people were tempted to say she might not be in the mix, but proved that she's definitely still ready to be in the mix racing. And I was excited to see her kind of up in there too.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to our first interview this week. Hana Al Nabulsi was there in Dubai and kind of gives us some context from the ground. And she did single out watching Flora Duffy, how inspiring that was, and just how brutal the conditions were. And it looked it on that broadcast. And kudos to those women for racing. I know it has been a long year, and that was some fierce racing. I mean, we saw really some competition for Taylor on the bike even, and on the run. I think Ash Gentle got within 50 seconds of her, and it did look like Ash was going to overtake her on the run. And then, you know, those conditions got to Ash and she had gone for it. And it was just so, I mean, it was so incredible to watch that and watch how hard they were racing. And then to, you know, see Ash hold on, because I think in that last kilometer, I didn't know if she was going to finish. Like she went from like,
I was worried.
I thought she was going to win to like, oh my goodness, she might not finish in this very last kilometer. And she held on for third. So it was exciting. It was a very exciting race. And then, you know, like you mentioned, some of those really, really solid performances in 4th through 19th. And it was just, it was very, very cool to watch that race. And then that was the grand final for the series. So that was worth double points. And you did see Taylor Knibb clinch that series tour, first time world champion for T100, and win that $210,000 bonus, which very, very well deserved. I mean, to win 4 out of 4 races is impressive.
Very well deserved. And another well-deserved bonus that will be coming out of the T100 series is to our own Haley Chura for finishing in the top 20. Matt was eagerly watching those standings the night before T100. He's like, I think Haley's going to stay in the top 20. This is so exciting. He's like, I think she's going to get the bonus, pull up the bonus schedule. And so we were both really excited to see that because, you know, while you've had a slight shadow at the end of this year, you know, you worked really hard in the beginning of the season and laid down some really good racing there. And so it's cool to like see you in that top 20 for the payout.
Thank you. I am thrilled. I am very thrilled because I didn't go into this season really expecting that. But then I had some really good races in the beginning of the season, but then you kind of start to forget that. And when I realized I was not going to be able to start in Dubai, I was sad. I mean, from the racing perspective, from the life experience perspective, and from the financial perspective, especially because I replaced what I thought would be a bonus with a lot of medical bills. And so I am thankful for that, you know, from the medical bill perspective. So I know someone did message me and they were like, oh, hopefully you can go to Taylor Swift or something. And I was like, I wish, but, but you know, hopefully I am not ending the year in debt. So that's also wonderful. And I will be able to maybe like get myself on another race and can afford that. But yeah, so finishing 18th, I did earn a $15,000 bonus. I'm so thrilled, excited. I mean, it kind of does show me that I did have a really good year. And because I ended on such a sour note, I have, you know, fallen into that short-term thinking that it's, you know, you're only as good as your last race. And my last race was not very good. And so it's nice that other people have a bigger perspective. So Matt, having that perspective, you, and then also some of the people I saw in person in Arizona, you know, would tell me, they're like, you had such a good year. And it's wild to hear that. And I needed to hear that from some other people because I was kind of just sitting there like on this airplane crying because my hand is hurt. And I'm just like, you know, it was a little rough, but I think I'm moving in the right direction.
And hopefully your athlete, Christina, showed you that, you know, what is to come at the end of this dark tunnel. Because yes! I did see a photo with her looking smiles after her race. So tell us about how Christina did.
I know Christina set an Ironman PR. She had a best
awesome.
time, and which is incredible given her recovery because she also had a pretty severe concussion. And so she has been working with a concussion specialist and, you know, a hand surgeon. And I broke one like metacarpal, and I think she broke 3. And I'm just, I mean, and in her right hand. And so I give her a lot of credit, because now that I have a lot more perspective and empathy for the recovery process, like her progression has been amazing. And we did make some modifications. Like she decided to ride with a camelback on the bike, which, you know, is a little bit different, but she's just, you know, it's hard to grab bottles. And I think it was really impressive how she like handled these modifications and really made the most of it and got that Ironman PR, which is just so exciting in a race like she never intended to do. I mean, she had signed up for a different race earlier in the year, and Ironman allowed her to transfer, but within the calendar year. So this wasn't like a ideal prep that we were like, oh, okay, you're going to be totally ready by Ironman Arizona. It was kind of like, okay, this is toward the end of the year, last options. Like, let's just see how it goes. And it went really well. So it's just definitely a good lesson for me as a coach, and a good lesson for me as an athlete, that if you do take care of yourself and then get yourself out there, like you can put together a very solid result. And even if it isn't the best result of your whole life, it's okay. Like it is a result, and she got to be out there and be part of it. And it's also been a long time since I spectated an Ironman. And I think that that was good for me, because it's so impressive. I mean, it's so impressive watching all those athletes get in that water and knowing it's cold and you know, and just keep themselves going all day. It's really fun to see it from that perspective. And I was just so impressed. And it's hard sometimes to remember that I've done that. And
Many times. Yeah.
I know my friends, like one of my friends, from Bozeman, who were racing, who by the way had incredible races too, both got world championship slots. So one headed to Nice, one headed to Kona, and which was interesting because again, the man I was cheering for, he got 7th in his age group, and the woman got 6th, and very similar age groups. But then his age group had 10 Nice slots, and hers had 5 Kona slots. And I know Kelly O'Mara has been publishing a lot on why there are reduced numbers in that for women going to Kona this year, because having watched it, I would say they were very equivalent performances, and there was no reason why he deserved then to go to the world championship and she possibly didn't, but she got a roll down, she's going. But it was just, you know, it was interesting to see that in action. But I know someone asked me like, oh, how many of these have you done? And I'm like, I think I lost count. I'm like, because it was his first Ironman, and I'm like between 25 and 30, somewhere around there. And I'm like, wow, that number is big. I'm like, how did that happen? And it's just like, life. But yeah, so maybe I caught the bug and I got to get myself healthy. I'm definitely more inspired to get myself healthy and, you know, potentially get on another start line in 2025.
Well, I'm excited for these interviews that we have to listen to today. But first, we are welcoming another podcast sponsor to the Feisty family today. So Lever Movement, you will hear some ads from Lever throughout the coming weeks, months, podcasts. And I have used Lever. I actually used it, and I don't necessarily advocate people training when they're very injured, like I was with my knee injury, but it was a tool that allowed me to train to do the one water race that I did before I had the surgery for my knee. So while I might not necessarily tell everyone that that's the best path to take, I do think it's an amazing training tool to use to help kind of not get super injured in the first place, and to relieve, like if you're just someone who can't handle a lot of run mileage or something like that, it's a really, really great tool. It's just this kind of apparatus that fastens to your home treadmill, or you can bring it really easily. It's very lightweight to the gym, put it on a gym treadmill. You hop into the Lever shorts and like bungee cord yourself up, and then it's like your own little version of kind of an Alter G treadmill. And so you run at less body weight. So there's a lot of different really good uses for it, and I'm excited that they've come on board as a podcast sponsor.
Very cool. I know. Maybe by the time I am back to running, I'll have to give it a try. And as we alluded, we have 2 interviews this week. So it is a big episode. So we are not doing our answering any mailbag questions this week, but you can send them in to ironwomenpodcast@gmail.com, and we will get to those in the coming weeks. But first, our first interview is Dubai themed, and because last summer we interviewed Hana Al Nabulsi about her attempt to become the first Emirati woman to compete in triathlon at the Olympic Games. Hana didn't qualify to race in Paris, but she did become the first Emirati woman to compete in triathlon at the Asian Games when she raced in Hangzhou, China last September. And more recently, she is a Dubai local, and she was able to be a part of the UAE contingent hosting the T100 Grand Final in Dubai this past weekend. So Hana told me about that T100 experience from her vantage point, how she's seen women's triathlon participation grow, and also those Emirati perceptions about women triathletes change just over the past year since we last talked to her. And she gives me a big health update on her, and she shares some of her goals for the next couple of years as she recovers from a big surgery. So I'll have that full conversation with Hana Al Nabulsi right after the break. Hi, Hana. Welcome back to the IronWomen podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me back on the podcast.
Oh, I can't wait to catch up with you. And I think we need to start with T100 Dubai. You are the first person I've talked to who was on the ground in Dubai for this race. Can you tell me about your role at the race and your first reflections on how it went?
So initially, like when I think it was like a couple of months ago, I can't remember when they announced that the finale. So the finale wasn't meant to be in Dubai initially, but then I don't know exactly what happened. But when it was announced that the Dubai is going to be hosting the finale for the championship for T100, it was huge for like the UAE. Like this is for the first time having PTO and World Triathlon create this partnership and hosting the T100 for the first time like this year. Having it in Dubai specifically as well is huge because I think most of the time it's the other Emirates, Abu Dhabi, that has like the big events. So for a lot of the athletes that have done like World Triathlon Series for like last year, this year, whenever it was, it's usually in Abu Dhabi. So it's also a lot of first timers coming to Dubai and experiencing a completely different atmosphere, I guess. So for me, I was representing the UAE Federation, and I'm not able to compete for, I think, I don't even know how much longer. I think January I could start competing again. But basically I was there for the press conference with Taylor Knibb and Martin. And honestly, it was insane. It was my first time meeting Taylor as well. So that was like, I was fangirling all the way. And for the race course, it was pretty insane. So like what they decided to do, like so one part of Dubai is completely on the sea. So like there's like one whole strip, like you could kind of go from the beginning to the end in Dubai and be by the beach. So they found like this beach that I referred to as Secret Beach. I guess it's not a secret anymore, but they basically hosted the swim there, and it was the Australian exit, if I'm not mistaken, that's what it's called, right? Yeah, so it was 2 laps. And so that day, so Dubai, honestly, usually in November, the weather's so much better than it was. It's still a shock for all of us locals as well that it's still so hot. Like even sea swims are really hot. Like it's a jacuzzi. So the fact that all these athletes did it in the time that they were doing it in the sea was insane, to say the least. And having it at 1 p.m. as well was it was crazy. And Dubai is known as like a flat ground. So for the actual race, they went on like these bridges that made it into like a rolling course, which is something I think also for like age groupers and everyone is the first time they experience like a rolling course in Dubai because it's very flat here. And then after that, the run was, I think it was around 7 loops for the pros. And then for the age group, it was 4 loops. Yeah, it was 4 loops, I think. But it was very technical as well. So like that's something I kept hearing from everyone. Like it was a very technical course. And they also changed the rules. I think usually in races, it's the bike is on the right side and then overtaking from the left. They changed it up for this race. Everyone's biking on the left side and overtaking from the right. But in a lot of races globally, that does happen anyways, just for like safety reasons. But a lot of people were talking about that. They're like, oh yeah, and like they had to keep remembering you have to overtake from the right. Overall, it was insane. Like I think organization-wise, they did great. They kept hosting briefings for everyone and for the pros as well. Because there was also a few changes here and there because of like the laws, not laws, but like the road closures and stuff, because it was kind of blocking the middle of Dubai. So people that lived on the left side couldn't get into the right side. So they had to change up a few things to make sure that people could still go wherever they needed to go that day. Because it was also like a 2-day race, so like it was it was pretty hectic, I would say, on that aspect as a person that wasn't competing.
Right. You know what how the locals felt about it. And do you think it was okay?
So for me, funny enough, so Saturday I was going to support some of my friends that were doing the age group race, and their race I think started at 6:30. So I was trying to get there for 7:30. I couldn't access the venue. So I literally went back home and I slept. So I was like, okay, I literally can't get in. So everyone that was on the road that day kind of learned, like the people that were like blocking the road or whatever it is, they learned that they actually need to open up certain parts so people that were going to spectate for the pro race could actually access the
Okay. Yeah, how was the spectator situation? I watched the broadcast, and I mean, the broadcast is definitely focused on the athletes, so you don't get as many like broad shots of how many spectators were there, but were there spectators? Could people get there?
There was thousands of people, thousands.
Wow.
Like it was the energy that was there. There's a lot of like live bands as well playing, and they also located it where it's called the Maidan Hotel, and like so Maidan is basically where a lot of horse races happen, and like there's an event that happens every year called the Nas. It's a Nas month, so basically there's like an event every day during Ramadan that is hosted there. So in the sense of making sure everyone's okay and like have AC at least, because it was like 30, 31 degrees, 32 degrees. And the humidity levels here are pretty bad. Like if I were to compare it to anywhere in the US, I'd say it's like Texas in the summer, like
Oh my gosh.
it's really bad. And the day of the race, I was really hoping it wasn't going to be the case for anyone, but it was still it was brutal. But then again, for us that live here, it's like if you were to compare it to the summer, this is our winter. So it was pretty funny also, like for a lot of the athletes, like traveling from abroad coming here, they thought this was our winter, and we're like, no. We're still like it's still really hot. And there's something happening. I'm assuming global warming, because by now the weather is usually amazing. But like today the weather is really nice. Like it was like
Oh, they missed it by a couple days. It looked
yeah.
brutal on the coverage. And I know that when I was planning to go there, I assumed it was dry. I was so shocked to learn that Dubai was humid.
Oh no, so humid, so humid. Like especially in the summer, there's all these products that these like big brands. I can't remember the names, like Torrid or whatever. These makeup brands that went and focused on the humidity aspect of the UAE. Tried to sell these like humidity sprays for like our hair or whatever. It does not work. Nothing works. If you were to like blow dry your hair, whatever it is not gonna stick. You're gonna go out. Your hair is gonna do its thing. Your skin's gonna do its thing. There was a point, when was this? I think it was in June, where genuinely I felt like my tri-suit could just slip off me from how wet I was from the inside. Like it was just, obviously it wouldn't slip off because like, the neck part is pretty tight, but like if there wasn't a neck piece, it would just slip off me. The humidity is brutal here. Like it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it was a tough race. Did you get to watch the women's race play out? What was your role during that event?
So for me, it was just so I wasn't actively doing anything that day. Just like I was just like everyone else, just watching the race. But I was helping out. Well, not like I would say like media sense, press conference sense. I was helping out the federation in that aspect. The event itself was organized by T100. The federation did help, obviously, they obviously have to approve everything and approve the logistics of everything. But that part I didn't have any part of. So it was more like in the media sense, I was representing them.
How did you feel as a athlete and fan of the sport, how the race played out? Was it how you expected?
Honestly, so for me, so when I saw Taylor that morning I think it was on Friday or Thursday, I just like looking, like she's an idol for me. Like I've looked back at all her races. Like even today I was looking, I'm like she's not human. This is insane. Like her record it speaks for her. No need, like I can't even sell her. Like her numbers sell herself, like type of thing. And one of the most humble, sweetest people I've ever met. Very sweet, very down to earth. It was so lovely meeting her. And so for me, looking back at all her numbers, I'm like, she's gonna win. But there was at some point, because Ash is more like acclimatized, I guess, to humidity and like heat, that there was that thing where it's like, will Taylor be able to handle the heat? But looking at how she raced, it was insane. There's no words, but it was remarkable. It's and also having Julie. So I've actually competed with Julie in Malaysia in the Asia Cup, and the way she preps for races, she does these meditation techniques, or I'm assuming it was meditation, like she was, from the look of it, looked like it was meditation, but very race focused, it was interesting to see how she was there and how she's competing with T100 right now. Like I know prior to the Olympics, she was doing Ironman, the 70.3s. I think she also did a few challenge races as well. So like the build up for that, and then going from the Olympics into T100, which is something completely new to her, and also being on the level that she's on, it's insane. You know, like I would say somewhat she's new into this middle distance, long distance triathlon world. And coming off the Olympics, you'd think someone for the first time going into the Olympics would just take a break, you know, just take a month break, go on holiday. This girl did not do that. Like she went full force. So it's insane to see this. Like it's mind over matter, I guess. Like it's what people say.
Right. What about the age group race? It doesn't sound like you were able to make it to spectate like you had planned, but what did you hear about that? Were there a lot of Emirati athletes, like local athletes, doing the T100 age group race?
Yeah, actually there was a lot, which was like it was amazing. So for the sprint distance, it was on the same day as the pro race for the women. And then the full distance was on the same day as the pro men. In total for age groupers, there was around 3,000 participants, which is a lot. Like it's and the way they also organized it was you had to like declare your swim pace so they could make sure that people are kind of rolling in a very smooth way. So I've heard from two sides. So the full distance, it was so well organized. Everyone was so happy with it. Banners were very well placed. But then for the sprint, I've heard like mixed reviews, where I guess also because it was the first race that happened, there was obviously going to be a few things that aren't 100%. Like there was the whole bag. So if someone hasn't done an Ironman or like a Ironman 70.3, it's something new for them to have two separate bags, putting one bag in the bike transition and another one in the run transition. So for the sprint people, it was kind of new to them to understand the concept of separate transitions and separate bags, and how are you going to receive your first bag? Is it going to be at the finish line? So there was a form of confusion in that. But from a streamlined perspective, it was very smooth. But it was the newbies, I'd call, or like the people that for the first time they're doing a race in this manner. It is confusing. You know, like I remember my first 70.3, we had the same thing. It was in Cozumel. And all these rules were coming out. I'm like, okay, where am I meant to put my shoes? Am I meant to keep them? Is someone going to ship them to the finish line? Like it was, and because it was basically, it took over the entire island. So like one transition was literally on the other side of the island, and then the other one was on the other end. So I remember how I was thinking back then, and I was so stressed because it was my first 70.3. And it was also like during COVID. So it was also like everything was extra, like there was too much information that we as humans were just not used to. So people had that issue in that sense and getting worried about their goggles. Like I do have a friend that literally just left her bag. She's like, I'll just buy new goggles. I'll get a new, whatever it is. I don't know where my bag is. But then for the other half, it was fine. You know, so like it was very individualistic. Is that the word? Individualistic? Yeah.
Yeah. What about women's participation? I know that you were the first Emirati woman to compete in triathlon in the Asian Games. You're the youngest to race a 70.3. Are you seeing more women race in triathlons?
I'm seeing a lot more women race, and it's so humbling. It's to me, honestly, like the second you just said that, I just got goosebumps. Like it's such a beautiful thing. And especially in the Middle East, in the Arab world, there is a lot of, because you will find a lot of athletes as well wearing the hijab. And for them, it's like, okay, like how am I meant to compete with a hijab? Like I can't show my skin. How am I meant to swim? So in the past year, I've seen a huge progression in that. I've been seeing a lot of more like women that wear the hijab go and compete. So there's this one athlete in Kuwait. She competes on the elite level, and she also wears a hijab, and she's killing it. Like she's been doing insane swims, and like a lot of people that end up having to cover a lot more, they assume that they're going to be swimming slower because of certain materials. But I've been seeing insane amount of new women in the sport. Which race was it? There's a race that happens in the UAE every year. I think it's called Mamzar. Usually happens in March. So the women participation for that was hundreds of people, like hundreds. So that alone, like the UAE is seeing this huge boom in triathlon. And it's becoming a well-known sport in the UAE and like in the Arab League, I would say,
What about
versus how it was like 2 years ago. So like
Yes.
it's huge, I would say. Like it's watching that as well with Emirati women. I've seen 2 new Emirati women join the not the team, but like the triathlon world, which it sounds little, but like 2 versus 1 is like, or 2 versus none is like, it's growth, you know? So I'm seeing like a lot of change, honestly, even the way women are perceiving the sport and perceiving, because there's also this, I don't know what it is, but like maybe the traditional way of thinking in the Middle East is like, let's say like not my parents' generation, but the generation older than them. For them, it's like women should not be playing sports. Like this is a man's thing. That whole concept is changing. So like my grandma in the beginning used to refer to what I do as like, oh, are you still playing? Like, are you still like just playing around? And now she sits there and looks at like videos and she understands the sport. And also now with my injury or whatever it's called, my surgery, she sits down, she's like, how are you feeling? I know like the sport, like it's everything for you. Like you'll get back on the wagon, you're gonna do it next year. This would never be a conversation last year, you know? So like there's a huge shift in the way people think here and the way people are thinking in the Middle East. And also like the UAE is also hosting the first ever long distance, like full triathlon distance. I think it's in April in this island in Abu Dhabi. So that's also really interesting. Like it's the sport is growing.
It's so cool to hear. Very cool about your relationship with your grandmother changing. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your surgery. I understand you had a tumor removed, and so it has halted your training for right now, but not forever.
Yeah, so that's actually a pretty funny story. So a couple of months ago, I just wake up and I just find this weird lump or like ball-looking thing coming out of my stomach. So I just go to like I message my coach. She's like, oh, it could be like a hernia. Like when you like if you carry anything, is it hurting? I was like, yeah. And he's asking me questions. He's like, what about this? I'm like, yeah, it hurts. He's like, okay, I think it could be a hernia. You should go to the hospital. And then I like call up my dad that day and he's like, oh, that I've had a hernia. I'm pretty sure that's a hernia. And I showed him how it looked. He's like, oh, 100% that's a hernia. So I go to the doctor with me thinking, I'm like, oh, it's just a hernia. Like it's just a simple procedure, even though it's not a simple procedure, like it's pretty invasive. I'm like, at least I know what it was, whatever it was. And I know a lot of people that have had this operation. So I go to the doctor. She's like, oh, I don't think this is a hernia. She's like, it could be a cyst. It could be, she gave me a list of things. I'm like, okay, like, what are we gonna do about it? She's like, oh, let's book in for like an ultrasound. The ultrasound needed like the appointment, I think was like a month later. And it was hurting a lot. Like it was like putting a lot of pressure. So I went to the ER the next day because I was like, okay, the ER is gonna do something. They're gonna do it much quicker than if I just go to like a doctor and make an appointment and follow that whole procedure. So I went to the ER. The lady comes back, she's like, okay, listen, you do have something, but don't worry, it's a tumor. I'm like, what? And then she's like, I have to come back. She got an emergency call for a C-section, like an emergency C-section. So she leaves me in this room for 3 hours.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm like, wow, okay, I have a tumor. And instantly when you think what a tumor is, you think it's cancer. So I was like, okay, I have cancer. And I'm spiraling in my head. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? And I messaged my coach. I'm like, so I have a tumor. He's like, what do you mean you have a tumor? I'm like, I have a tumor. He's like, where is it? I'm like, I don't know. And like, because basically she just came and told me I have a tumor and left. So I'm sitting there for 3 hours waiting for her to come back. She eventually comes back. She's like, okay, so we're seeing here you have it's a 10 centimeter tumor. it's on the outline of your uterus and it's weighing on your kidneys, on your right kidney. I'm like, okay. She's like, yeah, we need to remove it. I'm like, okay. Fast forward now, let's say 2 weeks. Nothing has been, because I had to do an MRI. It was like a whole process type of thing. The pain became so bad that I remember this one day I was using the bathroom. I fainted onto the floor. I wake up, I'm like, what on earth is happening? I had to crawl myself back to my room, back to my bed, and I'm screaming like in agony. So at this point, I went back into the ER. The tumor had grown to 19 centimeters. And
Oh.
the doctors were worried that I was going to get a kidney toxic shock, because it basically blocked off everything from that end. And it was very heavy. So like the kidney ended up swelling up a lot. And I do have I have kidney stone issues. So like my kidney getting more of this like pressure and having to work extra was an issue. So literally 24 hours later, they booked me into a surgery, and the surgery was meant to be around like 3 hours. It ended up being around 6, 7 hours,
Oh.
because there was these veins that were wrapped around that were too sensitive. And from what they had told me, they're like, if one of these veins we had cut, it's an instant you're out. Like it's death there basically
Oh
on
my
but
goodness.
so they had to work very slowly to make sure the veins weren't touched. And like the videos they showed me after, like they had to stitch around 6 stitches inside. So there was stitches, I don't even know what organs they were, like it was just pink everywhere, like in this video. But there was just a bunch of stitches around because the tumor basically had grown substantially that it's affected all the organs that were around. So and then they took it out, and then so I stayed in the hospital for the first night. I go back home. I ended up getting an infection, and I got a fever. And they had thought I had internal bleeding. It was basically a mess. It was just a mess. So I stayed in the hospital, I think for I think it was like 4 or 5 days till they made sure the infection was gone and the fever was gone. And if it was internal bleeding, they wanted to inject it out with like whatever system they had. But then they realized it was actually just mass from the tumor. There was a lot of liquid that was left behind. So they confused it to internal bleeding.
Oh.
And then I was sent home. Like after that, like
How
it
long
was
ago was this?
so this was in October.
This just happened.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, but like the whole process kind of, it was like a month and a half. Like it was, I had noticed this in the beginning of September. So and then it was kind of a domino effect from then. And then after I left like the second time from the hospital, I had I had a lot of like issues. I couldn't sleep because they put me on so many medications. Um, I had insomnia for like 3 weeks. Like I couldn't, like it was like I've just been like it was just a miserable experience overall. But now I'm seeing the light.
Oh. So it's amazing that you were able to even be back at that press conference and get that selfie with Taylor Knibb and cheer on those women. The timeline of this, I didn't realize was so condensed.
So funny enough, when I was told about the press conference, I was in pain sitting in my bed. I'm like, no, I
Oh.
will be fine. I will be fine. And there was also like a campaign video for, I can't remember which race, it was last week. Was it last week? 2 weeks ago. Also, this moment, I was like, no, like I was dying, but I still ended up going. But and then I ended up I tried to jog, which was a mistake from my end, and I had to go back to the hospital on Monday last week. It
Oh.
wasn't, there was no smart decisions, but I just, like when you're in the sport for so long, like it's just, you can't, you see someone running, you kind of want to run. What I also saw, what happened with your arm?
Oh, I crashed in T100 at Las Vegas and I broke my hand and I had to have surgery, a much less eventful surgery than yours. And I am in a splint for a few more weeks here and then hopefully get to start weaning out of it. But I missed Dubai. I missed getting to see you. I wish I could have seen you in person, but I understand a little bit the like downs that you can feel after surgery and after kind of going from like perfectly healthy to like barely being able to get out of bed. And that's a really hard transition. And so I'm actually, what was it fun for you and maybe motivating for you to be able to go and watch T100 Dubai? And does that help you get motivated to hopefully get back out there racing once you're healthy?
So yes and no. Like I was, if anything, like the motivation sense, I'm so excited for 2025. But in my head, there's always that little thought. It's like, even though like it's not a ligament that broke, or like thank God it's not an ACL or an MCL, it was like an internal thing. I just have this weird thought in my head. I'm like, I've been out of training for like 2 months now. Will I be able to? Because my numbers were getting better. Everything was like smooth, you know? So, and then in my head, I'm like, will I be able to get back to where I was 2 months ago? And there's so many races that are happening next year. Like I ended up sending my coach randomly a list of races that I want to do. He's like, Hannah, how about we wait? Let's do a test race. Like let's do a local race and see where your body's at. And then from there we'll see these races whether like we should do them or not. So there's always that little negative, Nelly in my brain that's like, oh, maybe you can't do it. But I'm like, no,
How old are you right now?
I just turned 28.
That's so young. That's so young. I think you have the right idea. Your coach has the right idea. You got to let yourself get healthy. But I mean, when we look on the horizon for you, I mean, Asian Games 2026 in Japan, right? That has to be
Yeah.
a big carrot out there, which you have plenty of time. And then Olympics 2028 LA, how amazing would that be? I mean, so I feel like, I don't know, there's my advice as a slightly older competitor is that you got plenty of time. And yes, it will come back, but you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Like I think also the past couple of years has just been so much because I had to do so many races. I don't think I passed like a month without having one race. So my body was just on 100% the entire time. And at some point I kept getting ill. And I remember I had like a cycling race in March, I think, and I had like a kidney stone episode midway through the race. And kidney stones, have you ever experienced kidney stones?
No, but I've heard about it and I hear it's
Thank God,
horrific.
because honestly, like it's the pain, like you scream from the pain. There's no shame. Like wherever you are, you're screaming. And at the time, I remember when I went, so I had to go to the hospital, and they gave me Panadol as painkillers. And I look at the doctor, I'm like, sir, have you ever had kidney stones? He's like, no. I'm like, "Well, if you ever experience it in your life, you remember the moment you giving me Panadol right now." And he starts laughing. He's like, we can't prescribe you other meds. Like it's because they're very strong. Like there's a lot of red tape here with anything besides Panadol or like Voltaren. Um, so at the time I was sitting there and like I had to obviously pass the stones and it took like 2 weeks. So that was also a period where I wasn't training. But other than that, like it's always just been 100% all the time. But like let's say like Laura Duffy, God bless her, like she's back in the game. She was 1 year out and she's now doing T100. She did her fifth Olympics. So a lot of the times I will look at like let's say Laura Duffy and I'm like, she literally couldn't physically wasn't able to do her entire career. Like she was questioning it all in that period. And now she's back in the game. She's hitting insane numbers. It's as if the injury never happened, So it's
fastest. I think she had fastest run in Dubai, right? Finished fourth, fifth in the series.
yeah. So I think fastest
Incredible.
run was Julie.
Oh, Julie was the fastest run. Okay.
Laura. Yeah. But I was looking at actually so Las Vegas, you had the fastest swim.
I did. I know. And I'm 39 years old. And so I think it shows that you can get back out there. You can get back out there. It just you got to take care of your body and and I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm kind of applying it to myself as well. I think Flora can be a role model for both of us right now.
Yeah. Do you know how long your recovery is for?
I mean, I think hopefully not too much longer. I think I have a couple more weeks of PT. I hurt my knee as well, but that actually seems to be healing a little bit faster. But the hand is rough. I did not know this. Hands are very intricate. So I go back and get more x-rays in a couple weeks here. And then I think we see if I can start like putting water pressure on my hand. But I'm already doing PT. It's just very humbling. But they say I'll make a full recovery. I'll be able to do a pull-up and,
There's
swing
no
some
doubt.
kettlebells.
I
So
actually saw a post that you were swimming with the shower cover
yes.
thing for the
Yes, I did that again this morning. I kicked for 2 kilometers, which I feel like is fairly impressive. And I was like actually starting to do some work, but I'm not someone who ever uses a kickboard. I don't know if you use a kickboard normally when you get in the water, but I like just streamline kicking because I was a backstroker. And so it's very odd for me to use a kickboard. I'm like, my arms are so sore. Like my arms are sore than my
Not your
legs.
legs, but your arms.
Yes, I know, but it's okay. I mean, I think we do what we can, and so the same thing, like I'm not running yet, but I, doing some kicking in the pool feels good. It feels good to get back in the water. So hopefully you're not too far behind. I know you probably have to get stitches out, like make sure the infection risk, all of that. The problem with abdominal surgery is I'm sure it's a little bit, you can't isolate it quite as much.
Yeah, and it's just weird because so like externally I have 4 stitches and they're fine. My belly button stitch looks a bit weird, but like I don't like I feel like my belly button's gone. I don't know what they did there. But so when you look from the outside, it's like, oh, okay, it's healing fine. But and then internally, because obviously like it's moist, so the stitches take a lot longer to kind of disappear, or there's those new stitches that I don't know what they are. I've never had stitches in my life, so they tried to explain to me like it kind of just disappears. So the ones inside are just gonna do its thing. So for me, it's like I don't actually know whether I can train. It's like a waiting game. So like last week when I tried to like jog, it was 20 seconds and then something just went like there was a weird feeling inside, like a muscle just went, and I can't explain, like it was like if you were to imagine a cramp, but like a cramp inside, and it was just painful, and then the pain wouldn't go. So it was like post-op feeling. So I couldn't sleep properly, I couldn't stand up properly.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, how am I meant to know when I'm okay? Because like it's not very settling mentally, I would say, like just trying and then seeing what happens. Because then it just takes me back a week. So I'd like at this point, I'm like, what are my options? Am I just meant to sit for like another month and then try? Or so I'm
right. Can you sit on the trainer? Is that painful? Can you try that?
So I tried to, and it was very uncomfortable. Because one of my stitches are right, like it's below my belly button to the left. Okay. And that one's quite big. So like anytime I bend any certain way, like I feel it kind of just doing something. So I'm like, no, I sat on it for like 10 minutes and I was like, this is.
Yeah. Listen to your body, listen to your doctors, listen to your coach. Even if you sit for a month, I think you're fine. Like you're going to make a comeback. We have till 2026, 2028, and maybe another T100 race in Dubai. That would be pretty cool if you could do that. So you have years and years ahead of you. So this is going to be a fun story that you told on a podcast. Yeah. I would love to. I'm sad I missed out. I watched the race on it was on Saturday here, and I was sad to miss. It was pretty sad, but I think, I'm going to tell myself the same thing, even though I'm a little bit older. I have years ahead of me, got to get healthy, and there'll be more opportunities. So
age is but a number. Like, yeah. Honestly, when you're 39, I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way.
Thanks. You made my day. But Hana, it's been so great catching up with you. And thank you for all the work you are doing in the UAE to increase women's participation in triathlon, even just being out there, being at the press conference, representing the sport so well. We really appreciate it. I'm going to be following you. I can't wait to, cheer you on in 2026 and hopefully 2028. I'm planning on going to LA. That one's like on my calendar. So that would be fantastic. Yes, let's do it. It's a date. But thank you again for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much to Hana for coming on and giving us that Dubai recap. It sounded really fun, and all the best in your recovery, Hana. We'll be cheering for you.
This week is special because I have a second interview with another young talent in the sport, because I was in Tempe, Arizona this past weekend, and I got to meet Naomi Ruff in person. And Naomi is the newest NCAA Women's Triathlon National Champion. She's a junior from Arizona State University, and she used a solid swim, bike, run combination with also, Alyssa, stellar transitions. She gives me some transition tips, which I always need. But she used that combination to win that individual title in Claremont by 13 seconds over the University of Arizona's Kelly Wetland. Naomi finished second at last year at the 2023 national championships. She was behind Denver's Myra Carreau, but this year she was undefeated in collegiate competitions. So incredible season. She also races on the World Triathlon circuit. She finished on the podium in a continental race earlier this year. And mid-collegiate season, traveled to the World Triathlon Grand Final in Spain, where she was the top American finisher, where in 11th place at the under 23 race. So Naomi is only 20 years old. She has big dreams for her future in the sport. And as I mentioned, I was lucky enough to meet her, record this interview in person in her apartment, where she is currently enjoying the off season. So we'll have my full conversation with Naomi right after a word from our sponsors. Hi, Naomi. Welcome to the IronWomen podcast.
Hi.
This is super fun because I'm interviewing you in person, which I don't get to do very often, but I'm in your very cool apartment in Tempe, Arizona. It's right across the street from the stadium and also very close proximity to the pool. Are you just like a diehard Arizona State fan?
I mean, I kind of have to be.
I mean, you're an athlete, you're here, and then you're surrounded by it all the time.
Yeah. So, big ASU fan.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty cool environment. We are talking to you because you are the most recent NCAA national champion for women's triathlon. It was just a week ago in Claremont, Florida. You won. It was a crazy race though, because you had this crazy format, right? Where you swam on Friday, biked and ran on Saturday. I talked to Lydia Russell, who races for the University of Arizona. We talked to her last week and we asked her about that format change and how she felt about it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts too. When you first heard that it was gonna be a 2-day format, what did you think?
We were all like shocked, but then not shocked at the same time because we knew like the rain and hurricane that they were having. So we kind of were expecting something to be off. And we like at first heard, oh, maybe it's going to be a duathlon. And we were all like, no, we're triathletes. So of course we want a triathlon.
Okay.
I did end up liking them having the swim. I'm very glad that we had the swim. So it was as close to a triathlon as it could have been, with it being a swim the day before the bike and run. So
I watched a video of that swim and you lined up almost like it was a regular race, but you knew you're not going to go get on the bike afterwards. How did you approach it? Because you came out of the water like top 10, I think. So like, were you just
11.
like, yes, okay. Yeah. Were you going crazy? Like, were you going harder than you would in a normal race, or did you treat it more like a normal race?
Yeah, absolutely. It was all out pretty much the whole time. I was like comparing it to you know how like the last like 200 you get your kit going more and you speed up. It was like that the whole time, and it was almost more aggressive. I feel like, especially around the first buoy, everyone is like trying to claw their way to get as many places as you can, because it was so important to start as close to the first person on the next day.
So were you reminding yourself, you're like reminding yourself during the swim, you're like, it's just this, like you have to like swim it like it's a 750 all out and this is the only thing you have going on the rest of your life?
Yeah, you had to just not even think about the next day, just be very present and like gotta go all out right now.
So what did you feel about coming out 11th? Were you happy with that?
Yes, I was like just within reach of the front pack, I felt like, and we had a lot of strategy talk the next day too to make sure as many of us could get up into that front pack.
Can you share a little bit of the strategy talk? Because you were going in as 7-time defending national champions.
Yes.
So what kind of talk was it?
It was so weird because usually you don't know how the swim's going to go. So you can't plan for where you're going to come out, but we could, because we had known like how far back we're going to be from, say, the first person that goes off. So we definitely did talk strategy of we're going to try to get together and then get to the front pack, and then like we had some girls in the chase pack too, so we were going to like see if we could like if they were closing the gap, then we would like let them and continue to try to get them up to the front pack, but we didn't want them to bring everybody up either.
Right. I wasn't there, but I was like trying to find the live streams, and then I had an athlete who was there who ended up actually FaceTiming me because it was so exciting. And it did look like there was a breakaway, but then there was like a massive group. Yes. So what happened in the moment? Did you know that was what was happening?
We could see what was happening at the far turnaround.
Okay.
Because it was an out and back, like 4 loops. So we could see the pack did kind of just turn into one big chase pack, and once we saw that, we were like, oh no.
Were you talking within each other and like trying to stay ahead?
A little bit, yeah. We were trying to motivate the girls, because especially on the last lap, nobody wanted to pull through, and so my teammates me and Faith and Zoe were like, okay, let's go. So we were actually the ones who would pull through for the most on the last lap, because I'm not sure what was happening.
You're working with your teammates, like luckily you had some of your own teammates,
yeah,
but then you're also working with some of your competitors, but also they know how fast of a runner you are, and so they might be like, wait a second, I don't want to come off the bike just with Naomi, she's gonna run me into the ground, and so they're like, oh, let's see if I can get more of my teammates coming up. It's very tactical in that way, which is fun.
Yeah, it's so different from racing like for USA or for the country races, because it is a team race in NCAA, and you want all your girls as far up as they can be.
You hit the run, and I think you were in that front group, and then you and the athlete from Queens, Beth Cook, is that who it was? You two kind of like took off.
Yeah.
So what was going through your head in those moments? I mean, I'm assuming you've raced each other before, so you probably had some ideas of how it could go, but were you super confident going into the run?
I don't know. We don't race each other that often because we're opposite conferences, and so we only come together and race at nationals. So we didn't really know how each other's fitness were at the time, but we had been working as a team on our transitions like very much. So I did end up coming off the bike almost last, but then I was able to like run super fast through transition, and I got out second right behind Beth. And that's new for me because I usually
tell me about this transition practice. Like, what do you do when you practice transitions? Because I know that this is something I could work on, and probably a lot of our listeners are age group triathletes who might be a little bit afraid to like work on transitions, but they know that is an important piece of triathlon. So what is a typical transition practice?
We've been doing some new stuff, very race specific. We'll set up a transition rack, but I mean, you don't need to use a transition rack on the track, and we'll like line up a little farther back from it, and then we'll have someone say go. We'll run to the bike, get our helmet on as fast as possible, and then we'll bike around the track, and then we would do a little U-turn to get some like U-turn practice in, and then we'll have a dismount line, and we'll dismount. We kind of do it all as a group too, like it would be like you're coming out of a race. And yes, it's just very specific, and then we try to go dismount as fast as possible, and then we go right into like our run workout too. So we dismount and right into an 800 at our like 5K pace.
Wow. Okay. So you're like, it's worked into your workout.
Yeah.
So are you just practicing one transition then, or do you do it before every 800?
We would do it before every rep of what we were running.
Okay. That's a cool workout. I mean, it's kind of fun, but I can imagine too where it gets harder as you get more tired.
Yes.
So you're just like trying to focus and like make sure you're doing everything in the right order, but it probably does get it down. Okay, I'll have to like think about this one if I could pull that off. Like I don't have the track access, but I feel like there's a way you could do it.
The road too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like set up in your neighborhood and just go from your garage, and I've seen people do that too.
I know, my neighbors already think I'm so cool. They will be like, oh yes, she's at it again. No, but it's so neat when you are able to make a move like that, because like you said, then you come into transition last in the group, and then you exit second right with Beth. So you're running like neck and neck that full first lap, right?
Yes.
I mean, are you like listening to her? Like, are you like thinking I'm holding back a little, I'm gonna make a move? Is there like some tactics at play?
There's definitely some mental games too, because I kind of there was definitely a wind too, so I tried to get like right behind her to almost draft during the run, which I think it worked a little bit too, and then plays into the mental game with like how heavy you're breathing and like portraying how tired you are. And then at the U-turn, we've been doing a lot of U-turn practice too on the track. We'll do an 800, but we'll turn around every 200.
Wow.
And so I definitely used the speed work we were doing at the 180s. And then I was able to pass her at that U-turn, and I stayed in front after that.
Yes, that's such a cool idea. I mean, it makes sense because you do have all these U-turns, and to actually practice that as a skill.
Yeah.
So that's a really neat idea. I mean, no one wants to go run an 800 on the track just at 200s, but it does make sense that helps you like work at that at speed, and then it paid off on the day. So you pull ahead. You pull ahead. I mean, what's going through your head then? Are you thinking like, I got this? I'm going to be the national champion?
Not until the second way out, because it was a out and back.
Okay.
And then once we were going back out, there was I got a little distance from her, and I could hear the breathing get farther and farther away, and then that's when, like, oh, I got this. And then I passed my coach, and then he was like, you got it. And he told me the gap, and I was like, just gotta keep the cadence up and finish, and get to the finish line.
What did that finish line moment feel like? Because you have won, this is your third or fourth win this season, third win this season, but it's your first national championship individually, right?
Yes.
What is that feeling like?
It was awesome. It was so great because that was definitely a big goal going into this season, because last year I placed second, so only better place is the top step.
Yeah, and you did it.
Yeah, my teammate Heidi was holding the flag for me as I was running by her by the finish line, so I grabbed it and fumbled with it a little bit. It kind of fell in front of my face, but then I like whipped it behind. I was like, very exciting moment.
You're like, yeah, Sun Devils, triathlon, we got it. That's pretty cool. That is really cool. And then what about the whole atmosphere? Because when you did get second last year, it was on a home course here in Tempe. And this time you're on the other side of the country in Florida. How did that compare?
It was definitely a bit different crowd. It was very more like family specific. I had like 6 of my family members out there all cheering me on, so that was great, because with it being in Florida, I have a few family members in Florida, so they were able to do the quick little drive down to Claremont and watch.
Oh, nice.
So it was very nice to have them there.
Okay, so maybe not as many like Arizona State specific strangers on the sidelines like you might in Tempe, but sounds like you actually felt really supported.
Yeah.
As you're leading, are you also calculating kind of where your teammates are? Are you thinking about the team race, or are you thinking at that moment like, the best thing I can do for the team right now is score as many points as possible and get that first place? What is going through your head?
Definitely a bit of both.
Okay.
It depends on how tired I am too, like where my mind is at.
Sometimes it's just like one foot in front of the other, like forward movement.
Yeah, I gotta focus on where I am right now. Can't think about too many other things. But yeah, I would definitely, every time I would pass a teammate, I'd try to cheer them on and be like, you got it, keep going, because yeah, we need everybody to place as best as they can.
Arizona State has really led the way in women's triathlon and expanding it within the NCAA. A few years ago, I was at the Outspoken Summit here in Tempe, and I believe one of your assistant coaches at the time and assistant athletic director came and talked to us about how ASU is specifically trying to create more competition for themselves. Yes. Even though at that time they had won like 5 in a row, it was like, no, we want competitors. Like we want this to really work. We want this to become a fully fledged NCAA sport. And so we saw that happen this year, where you were dethroned in a way by University of Arizona, which is, you know, your interstate rival.
Yeah.
Does it feel good though, because you have been such trailblazers that, you know, they've ended your streak, but maybe for the betterment of the sport?
Yeah, it definitely is good for the sport to have it be so competitive right now, and I think it's very good for like the longevity. And since we've hit these 40 schools now, it's only going to grow from here, and we're all very happy that it is getting more competitive. And yeah, it's really good for the sport.
So it's kind of one of those, it's like I don't know if bittersweet is the right word. Yeah, like you obviously wanted to win. I'm sure you all wanted to make it 8 in a row, because you're like, let's just dominate as long as we can, right? But there is something about it being, okay, like we helped do that, which I think they even acknowledged. When I talked to Jocelyn Bonney, the assistant coach there, she did acknowledge, like, U of A is good because ASU was good first. And so hopefully there's, you know, you all can share in that a little bit.
Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about how you got into the sport, because I believe you grew up swimming and running in high school.
Yes.
But you decided to do triathlon in college. You didn't. Why not do swimming or running?
That is a good question. It was kind of a hard decision, because running, it's running in college, but I had a very good club team around me too, and I had a teammate who actually got me into the sport, Camille Buchanan. She came here too, and I saw like how much opportunity there was with ASU and like triathlon in general. So yeah, that really kind of pushed me to continue in triathlon.
So you were doing a club triathlon team while you were in high school?
Yes.
Okay.
Or yeah, kind of on the side as a club. I would mainly focus on cross country during cross country season and then track during track season. But yeah, I would swim with them and in the winter we would bike in the trainer all together, and it was a super great program.
And then ASU was just because that one teammate, you wanted to follow in her footsteps?
A little bit, but I also knew that if I were to go just running too, I know a lot of people struggle with injury with that, and I was definitely lower mileage on the running too, so I thought it would be better for like the longevity of my athletic career too. And I also love the cross training with swim, bike, and run. I don't know if I could just run.
It's cool that it's an option, and I can see where it kind of takes a special type of person though to be like, I'm going to go do this emerging sport, because running is so established, swimming is so established, and you'd be walking into teams where you have a vast alumni network and a lot of resources. But hopefully Arizona Triathlon is getting that way, or ASU Triathlon, because now you do have a pretty good alumni network, and you do have a rich history to draw on and add to. So hopefully it's feeling that way, and maybe it's like you said, you get to be part of that history.
Yeah, I guess I never thought of that. That's really cool.
It is cool. It is cool. This season, you were undefeated in collegiate racing. Did you go into the season with that as a goal?
I kind of just went in to see what happens. I like to go in like, oh, whatever happens, happens, so I don't get too nervous, because I did struggle with that kind of even my freshman year, especially with like overthinking each race. But yeah, I just go in with the thought process of I want to do the best that I can and help the team the best that I can. And it really did play off this year.
Yeah, pretty special. And in addition to the collegiate racing, you also race in the World Triathlon circuit. And so I was looking at your schedule, because I was like writing down all the countries you have raced in this year. I think you started the year in Cuba in February.
Yes.
You went to Ecuador, Mexico, Canada, Dominican Republic, and just last month you were 11th at the U23 Championship Finals in Spain. How do you manage that travel, that racing, the collegiate season, and school?
Yeah, it is a lot. But I guess from a young age, I was growing up swimming, and that really gets you on a schedule, and you know how to delegate the time to where you have enough time to get everything done. So I think that really helped. But yeah, it is, like I said, the opportunities that there are in triathlon, there's like so many, because I don't think I would have traveled outside of the country if it wasn't for triathlon at this point.
And not just out of the country, like Cuba. Those are places like people don't just go, right?
Yeah.
What was it like?
It was cool. It was like not what I expected. But yeah, they have a lot of like older buildings, and they have a bunch of old like Ford cars. And after the race, we took a tour in one of the old cars. There was a driver, and that was really cool.
And then what are you studying? So do you come back and tell your professors, like, I just went to Cuba last weekend?
Yeah, some of them ask and are very interested. But yeah, I'm studying marketing and accounting.
Okay, I studied accounting. There's actually like surprisingly high number of skills that you learn in sports that help in accounting. The teamwork aspect, like often you do work in teams. If you could handle going to Cuba, you could handle going to a client. So I don't know. We can make it up however we want. When you are racing during the summer, are you here at ASU training, or do you train elsewhere?
I split up the time in Tempe, and I was at home for a little bit over last summer, and I was up in Park City for a little bit too, visiting my boyfriend who trains on the Project Podium guys team that also trains here for half the year. So yeah, but I do like staying here to an extent, but it does get very warm. Yeah.
It is perfect
Arizona.
right now.
Oh,
I'm like, this is why people live in Arizona, but I do like the weather. You always hear about the like record number of days over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's like I feel like Phoenix is breaking it every year.
Yeah, I try to get out before that point. I'll stay like first half of the summer. Like you said, I did the race in Ixtapa, Mexico, and I stayed and trained up until I left for that race.
Okay, so you get some heat training, and then you go to Chicago or you go to Park City and get a little reprieve.
Yeah.
Is your same coach coaching you through all of that?
Yes, Cliff.
Okay. A lot of the NCAA athletes that I talk to now do have plans to continue in the sport. Are there post-grads who train here too?
Yes, that's definitely a big goal. I want to see how far I can go in the sport because I definitely love it so much. And yeah, there is a pro team, so like you can come back and train with Cliff, and we do have an alumni, actually, Liberty Rika, who comes and trains with us, and we've had some other girls too come and train, and it is super nice because you get to have just an even bigger group. Yeah. Can you share any of your goals that you have in triathlon? Ooh, I guess going to the Olympics, so that's a big goal. And yeah, I don't know. Is that like 2028, like looking at that one, or potentially? Yeah. I mean, LA would be pretty cool. It's like basically down the road. I know. Are there any athletes or coaches? We are the IronWomen podcast, so like women in the sport that you see as role models or admire? That's a good question. I definitely watch the short distance, and seeing like Taylor Spivey and Taylor Knibb and all those girls race. It's super inspiring. So yeah, I definitely look up to them. They just raced this morning at T100 Dubai. Did you catch any of that? I did a little bit on Instagram. It looked very hot. It looked like Arizona midsummer hot. This is too early to ask this question, but non-drafting racing, I mean, now that we're seeing some of these opportunities come up like T100, where there's sort of a in-between before you get to like 70.3 and Ironman distance, does that interest you at all? Or are you just like totally in on draft legal, fast and short? T100 definitely interests me. It looks very cool, and it's kind of, it's that in between, so it'd be like kind of a stepping stone, I feel like, and I see maybe a future in long course. Well, we're lucky to have you in the sport now, and hopefully for many, many years to come. Thank you so much, Naomi. It's been really good getting to know you, and congratulations again. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks to Naomi for coming on. And Haley, it's really cool that she had you over to her apartment. Did you walk in and were you like reverted to your college days? What was that like?
Alyssa, I walked in and the first thing I saw was just bikes everywhere. It was so cool. It did not remind me of my college days because I definitely was not riding a bike in those days. I think her roommate is on the club triathlon team at ASU. And so the actually first thing I saw was a time trial bike. And I was like, wait, are we doing non-drafting racing? And she's like, no, that's my roommate's bike. She's not here right now. So cool that they actually live together. It was, excellent location for training. And it was it was the coolest apartment ever. So thank you so much, Naomi, for trusting me to come to your apartment and doing that interview. And I mean, I can't wait for just more. I mean, enjoy your off season, but I'm excited for the future of the short course racing between Hana and Naomi. There's, I feel like I have some horses in the race. So I'm learning more about it. And it's, we have 4 years till the next Olympics, but there's lots of in between exciting events, and it's fun to get a little perspective check into that world.
All right, Haley. Well, I hope you're settling in back to the chillier temperatures in Bozeman. Okay. Continue on with your recovery too. And thanks for knocking out 2 really good interviews for us this week.
It was the young guns, the young talent interview or episode this week, but it's been fun. And Alyssa, I'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, Haley.
You've been listening to the IronWomen podcast hosted by Haley Chura and Alyssa Godesky.
IronWomen is a production of Feisty Media and is edited by Lydia Russell and produced by Ella Natishan.
Head to livefeisty.com to find more podcasts, stories, and fresh perspectives.
Thanks for listening.